Days Gone is one of the 370 games in my Steam library. To begin, I wasn't too sure about this game due to the somewhat small but very vocal critics of it. Truth be told, I paid full price for the game only because of my love for the apocalyptic themed games and films. So did I enjoy it? Let's talk about that. Firstly, the cons. Right off the bat, the first cutscene stuttered really badly. Granted, the gameplay didn't stutter and I was averaging 60 FPS plus. The cutscenes are the main storytelling framework. That's where you get the feels, get engrossed in the game, so you want them to play out without a hitch. As a side note, the cutscene stutter isn't some isolated issue either. You can find example after example of others who've experienced the same problem. Anywho, I got the game running and recording normally after some 2 hours of research and tinkering. And I'm only kidding. Believe it or not, the stutter issue is my only major gripe about this game. Click start and the intro will take you through a very abridged story as to how everything got started. It is awfully reminiscent of The Last of Us. After that, you're thrown into the world 2 years after the catastrophe. Now, I gotta say, the initial going is quite slow in this game. I get the intentions of the devs, and you know what? I actually enjoyed the part where I was limited in the things that I could do, whether due to lack of skills or the initial lackluster weapons. The lowly spec'd character during the initial stage of the game, it actually makes you think about how you might approach an enemy camp and to be mindful of your abilities or the lack thereof. I thought it was kind of neat, but that's very specific to me. Reading up on many differing opinions on the game, I think the slowness definitely played a part in getting bashed by a handful of reviewers and players alike. I opted to use a controller for this game since it was originally made for a console. I thought it'd be a better experience. Shooting felt okay, but nothing that would blow your mind. The gun sound is good, the enemy reaction to getting shot is fine, and the visuals are pretty good. It doesn't have that punchiness of Borderlands 3 or the satisfying shooting of The Division 2, but it's at least average. As far as the combat is concerned, it really comes alive when you go up against a group of freakers. This is far more true during the initial stage of the game when you're not familiar with their behavior, your guns are crap, you suck at the game, so you get your blood pumping, and it's a real good scare. Eventually, as you expand on the skill tree and acquire better guns by earning trust from different camps, the combat gets much easier and the enjoyment of gunplay is only held up by the novelty of new weapons. And towards the end, the hordes. Yeah, the hordes are a lot of fun to go up against. You can get very tactical on how you destroy the hordes, using environmental traps, setting up bombs and such, but I personally like to go ham on them. Basically, after you're about 2/3 into the game, you would have earned enough trust to purchase a gun called Chicago Chopper, and that's really all you need to destroy the hordes with ease, at least in normal difficulty. I would also mention that one of the ways to earn trust is to kill freakers, collect their ears, then you have to hand them over to the bounty clerks at each camp until you top off at trust level 3. It's a simple transactional economy within the game. As for the combat against the human NPCs, it is the usual AI that you find in other similar titles. Approach enemies in stealth mode, mark your targets, do some stealth kills, get caught, shooting starts, enemy AIs will take cover, you take cover too and shoot back, melee weapon wielding AIs will charge at you, you take them out and continue shooting, you know the drill, it's fun but nothing groundbreaking. The thing that really stands out in this game is the environment. Titles such as The Last of Us, the Fallout series, or the Metro games, they are either set in an urban area or they often take you back to formerly urban areas where the sense of the end of the world as we know it is unmistakable. The atmosphere is something that Days Gone does differently. You see, for the exception of the crumbling buildings and rusty vehicles scattered throughout the map, everything else is so pretty to look at that you often forget the entire world had gone to hell. I enjoyed that sense of peace during my bike rides to different camps and missions. The game does a good job of inducing a sense of calmness only to literally throw you to the wolves or have an ambushed sniper blow up your bike and give you a good scare. Days Gone is, I think, one of the games that I least fast travel from location to location. It's that pretty to look at. It is especially true when it comes to your initial base. The view from the watchtower is something else the first time you see it. The morning sunrise and the tranquil nights are pleasant to experience throughout the game. It's funny to compare it like this, but I felt the same sensation that I felt when I went camping as a boy and felt that coziness and protection inside the tent. I enjoyed my stay at the watchtower so much that I actually went back there a few times even when I had no business there. I just wanted to be there and see it. The vehicle system in Days Gone, in my opinion, is another thing the devs had done well. You get one choice of vehicle and that's it. It is you and your bike against the world. Some may disapprove the lack of choice, but I respectfully disagree. First off, in the game, it had been 2 years since the world had gone to the poopers. It makes sense that you're not going to find many readily working vehicles, thus for someone who lives in that world, it would be prudent to choose 1 or 2 vehicles and maintain them in tip-top shape. Secondly, you sort of build a bond with your bike since it's really your lifeline, the only thing that'll keep you alive out in the wild. I compare it to the relationship of Geralt and Roach in The Witcher 3, but I would say the main difference is that you can actually upgrade the bike since it's a machine and not alive. Having said that, I just wish the upgrade system was a bit more in-depth. I don't think that's asking for much when there's only one player-controlled vehicle in the game. There should have been far more performance upgrade options, and if that was difficult, at the very least, they should have made the visual upgrades far more varied. Being able to customize and personalize the bike would have been so much fun, but instead we get a few different bike handles, exhausts, headlights, and some less than inspiring stickers for the fuel tank, and I guess a few color options. It was a bit underwhelming, but even with the complaint, I did enjoy slowly upgrading a hunk of junk into a capable machine towards the end. What really carries the game till the end is the main story, as it should, this being a single-player game. It's your typical end-of-the-world story, and some may complain that it offers nothing new, but to those people I would ask, what else were you expecting? What most gamers want in this type of game is a simple story that scares us at times, plays on our heartstrings on others, and mainly a story that will suck us up into the game world. Most gamers just want to get lost in a fantasy world for an hour or two after a long day at the office, school, or wherever. Days Gone has done that fairly well. After about 10 hours of playthrough, I began to care for the main character in Deacon and the main supporting character in Boozer. It was lamentable that Boozer wasn't more involved in the main story arc, but every time he played a role in a mission, I really enjoyed those moments. In fact, those were probably my favorite moments in the game. I'd also add that the voice acting in this game is top-notch when it comes to the main character and the main supporting characters.
My infirmary.
Oh, are you gonna shoot me now? Oh, wait, there's a code, right?
That being said, the random event characters were repetitive and their voice acting felt somewhat forced.
Man, I was done for. Holy shit. You know? Thank you so much. Oh, man.
But overall, the voice acting was excellent. I won't spoil the game for you, but there are some wasted moments in the game that I think could have been used much better. There were a couple of missions that made you feel truly sad for a few characters in the game. I wish there were choices and consequences in those moments. Even if the choices were simplified down to a yes or no, I think the dreadfulness of the end of the world could have been portrayed in a much more cutthroat manner. Be that as it may, the story was good enough to keep me entertained for 70 plus hours. Lastly, the side missions are definitely repetitive and they do get boring after a while. But for what it's worth, they not only help with leveling up your character, but you also earn the trust of different camps by completing them. After all, the higher the level of trust, the better weapons and bike upgrades you can acquire from the vendors in different camps. From the midpoint of the game and towards the end, earning trust and unlocking additional weapons and upgrades were enough of motivation for me to continue grinding at the side missions, but that's just me. I believe the long hours I poured into this game clearly lays out what I think of Days Gone. But for those of you who are still on the fence about the game, I would tell you that if you fancy exploring apocalyptic worlds and you are okay with a typical but an enjoyable zombie story, then you are in for a treat. My final verdict is to keep Days Gone installed, finish out clearing a few remaining hordes, then try the survival mode whenever I may have some free time in my hands. Let me know in the comment section if you agree or disagree. I'll see you on the next one. Kronos out.